Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second week of SCSP's new series, Lunch and Learn, exploring the implications of generative AI on national security. Thank you for joining us a little bit past the noon hour today. Rama just had the opportunity to speak on Bloomberg, so we will post that link in the comments as well as on our LinkedIn in the next few hours, so make sure to check that out. Some big shoes to fill following up that interview, but I have the privilege today of joining my colleagues Rama Elaru and Jenny Kiefsinger. If you guys could both start and just let our followers know a little bit more about you.
Sure. I'm Rama Elaru. I'm the Senior Director of Society at the Special Competitive Studies Project. I was at the National Security Commission on AI, which is a predecessor to this organization, where I worked on ethics and responsible AI. And I was detailed to the National Security Commission on AI from the United States Patent and Trademark Office, where I served as an administrative patent judge. And in my current role, I work on AI governance and intellectual property policy.
Thanks. I'm Jenny Kiefsinger. I'm a Senior Director for Government Affairs here at SCSP. Came to SCSP after 16 years in federal government. That include 2 years with the National Security Commission on AI, some time with the Department of Commerce, some time with NIST, and also on the Hill at the Senate Commerce Committee and House Appropriations Committee.
Great. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about SCSP as a whole, scroll down to our Innovations Live and you can see the full generative AI report, which is called Generative AI, the Future of Innovation Power, summarized by SCSP's team members David Lin and Abigail Kakura. But for today's conversation, we're going to focus on the governance memo, which is titled Governance of Generative AI. Could you provide maybe just a quick overview of what that report is about?
Yeah, sure. So generative AI and AI generally is going to transform our lives, our societies, our individuals. So we need to make sure that we harness the benefits that this technology offers while mitigating the worst of the harms. So our memo includes short-term solutions to longer-term solutions. We have a lot of existing authorities and infrastructure where we can uptake AI regulation right now. So we need to be leveraging those mechanisms while we explore additional solutions, longer-term solutions.
Governance is a hot topic. We're seeing it everywhere. Your memo outlines two timelines that you've mentioned at the beginning of the report. The development of generative AI and then also the governance of generative AI. Can you give an overview of each of those?
Sure. So just think about it. Today, we're 1 month away from the 1 year mark of the release of ChatGPT. And ChatGPT has mesmerized the world. It has brought AI to the masses. The everyday person understands what generative AI is from interacting with it. And so this tech evolution will only continue exponentially with applications being built on top of existing technologies. And at the same time, AI regulation in our country moves slowly, and rightfully so. We really need to understand the implications of these technologies before we can start putting guardrails on them. And our political system takes time. It's very deliberative. It requires consensus. That takes time. So these are sort of two timelines that are a little bit juxtaposed, but we're getting there. There have been some tremendous actions that both the administration and Congress have taken.
Generally, I want to talk about how today the White House will be releasing their executive order, Safe, Secure, and Trustworthy Development and Use of Artificial Intelligence. Can we discuss how this order is aligning with some of the work that the Special Competitive Studies Project has done and is doing?
Absolutely. The EO is really a remarkable document that covers the broad swath of government, from governance areas to national security, to intellectual property, to how AI can be applied to health and other areas to benefit our society. It really aligns with many of the tenets that have been put forward, not only in our generative AI report and the individual memos, but also in our mid-decade challenges for national competitiveness. Some examples include starting the pilot project of the National AI Research Resource, setting up in sort of an interagency body to carry forth the EO to ensure that these AI tenants are being brought forward and delivered upon. But specifically on generative AI, there are a few key areas where the EO hones in. First, it calls on NIST to create a companion resource to the AI RMF, really focused in on generative AI. It also calls on DoD to work across departments and agencies to assess how Gen AI could be used to address threats like bio threats. It also, for example, calls on the Department of Commerce to assess synthetic content and USPTO to look at how generative AI and AI broadly is used in inventorship.
Great. So Rama, I think given the EO, given the work that SCSP is doing, what are we seeing as the major challenges, both internationally and domestic, that may be roadblocks for generative AI?
Well, so as I mentioned earlier, AI has significant impacts on society, both in a positive manner and in a negative manner. So we need regulation that covers both, right? So we can't regulate everything. We can't regulate all AI systems. So we have to figure out where we're going to expend our regulatory efforts. And so one of the governance principles that we put out last year was that we should focus our regulatory efforts on AI systems that are going to have the most highly consequential impacts on society, whether those are beneficial or negative impacts. So a Special Competitive Studies Project has been working on a framework to determine how we should be identifying those highly consequential AI systems. It's a risk-based approach, but it takes two things into account. First of all, we have to harness the benefits of these AI systems. So how do we figure out which AI systems have the most benefits to society that we want to be able to incentivize? And the second thing is we have to balance regulation against innovation. We cannot be stifling innovation, because it's really important to us domestically, in the sense that we, again, need to be able to reap the benefits of these technologies. But we're also in a tech competition right now. The nations that lead in global market share and innovation leadership of these technologies will be able to harness the benefits for their societies, their economies, and importantly, assert geopolitical influence. So we need to make sure that we are leading in AI innovation domestically, and we can't do it alone. We need to do it with our partners and allies. So we need to make sure that our frameworks are the way we're going about governing and regulating AI aligns with our partners and allies, so that we can make sure that there's sufficient data flows between nations, our partners and allies, as well as ensure that we have access to each other's markets, so that, again, we can innovate more.
Generally, I want to get into some of the recommendations that this report has included. There's 3. And domestic election systems, domestic regulatory needs, and digital platforms from countries of concern are the ones that your team has laid out. Can you describe each of these and maybe the actions that need to be taken?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll start from the top on honing in on domestic election systems. We know that more than 2 billion people will be going to the polls next year. And that includes here in the United States. We'll be having our federal elections and our state and local elections. And so we really wanted to address how are they able to identify when the content they are viewing online is real and is not. So we recommended that NIST create voluntary standard of conduct for synthetic media, some guidance, some framework document that they could use and that government and industry and outside organizations could use to help identify or label when something is synthetic media. The next part is we really call on Congress to help educate the American people on digital literacy. This is incredibly important. And one role is that we ask that the government identify who is the clear agency lead for this work, who's in charge, so we know who to go to. And then we also encourage departments and agencies to use their existing authorities. As Rama mentioned, this is one of our key principles. Departments and agencies have a lot of authorities. We need to make sure we're using them to the fullest extent possible. We also, on domestic regulatory needs, this goes back to the 4 key principles for AI that were outlined in mid-decade challenges for national competitiveness. And that is, we need to govern AI and generative AI by outcome and by sector. We have a lot of regulators that have expertise in their specific sectors. They're the ones who should take the lead. But they also should have the opportunity to be empowered, these regulators. So that's really our second principle. We should empower them to do the work they need to do, and then also help them identify if they have any gaps and help government determine where they can fill in those gaps. And the third area is to really focus in on high consequence AI. And that is where SCSP is working on and will be releasing soon a framework for helping to identify those highly consequential AI uses, whether they are extremely beneficial or risky. And then the last is to really focus on non-regulatory governance. There are a lot of organizations out there inside and outside of government that have put together great documents and great collaborations to work together to govern. And the NIST AI framework is a perfect example. Lastly, we call on a focus on foreign digital platforms from countries of concern. We want to ensure that what is out there is really not harming the US and harming our people. So we really want to first take a look at narrow product-specific restrictions and whether or not we can do that under our current laws or if we need to expand those capabilities. And the second is that we really need to take a comprehensive risk-based approach at looking at platforms and look at things as a case-by-case basis. So that's really, those 3 key areas is really where we hone in, and we hope that government and industry can build upon.
Awesome. And just my final question, and I've asked this of our other teams, is, you know, what's the bottom line if this is my first time interacting with SCSP, or I'm trying to catch up on the governance frameworks, or whatever it is? Why does it matter to me? Why does it matter to you?
AI is it's ubiquitous. You're already using AI when you use your phone, when you use your navigation systems, when you're in your car, and that's just going to continue. So it is going to affect every individual in everyday life. So you want to make sure that this technology is upholding your values, your systems of rights and liberties. And so I think that's why this is important for the everyday person. That's why these guardrails of safety, security, responsibility, trustworthy AI is important for the everyday individual.
I also will add that, AI plays a big role in our national economy. It plays a big role not just in the societal elements that Rama mentioned, but also in our national security. So we need to pay attention of how generative AI in particular and AI more broadly is going to impact all of those areas and how we can work together collaboratively to address the challenges and embrace the opportunities.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining us today. And thank you to all of you for joining us for another lunch hour of our new special series, Lunch and Learn, exploring the implications of generative AI on national security. Tomorrow we'll be joined by 2 members of our intelligence team, and we look forward to seeing you at 12 p.m. Eastern Time.
And thanks to you for moderating.
Thank you.